Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 1 to 4. Reading together. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt not in any case bring them again unto thy brother. And if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, or if thou know him not, then thou shalt bring him unto thine house, and it shall be with thee, until thy brother seek after it, and thou shalt restore it to him again. In like manner shalt thou do with his ass, and so shalt thou do with his raiment, and with all the lost things of thy brothers, which he hath lost, and thou hast found, shalt thou do likewise. Thou mayest not hide thyself. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or ox fall down by the way, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt surely help him to lift them up again. The Lord bless us in the reading of His sacred word. If you have the opportunity sa pagbasa this portion of the book of Deuteronomy, one thing you will discover and you would realize is there are just many interesting things nga imuhang masayran dinhi. Gani mga kaigsoonan, as we will consider this passage of scripture tonight, you will find it interesting to know how God, through Moses, gave specific instruction unto His people, even on matters of lost and found. Oftentimes, when we think about the commandment of the Lord, maybe we think about the 10 commandments. Please understand that in all of the Pentateuch and in all the writings of Paul, there are a total of 613 laws and commandments. And what is even more interesting is, you may have not realized nga bisan sa mga butang nga sama niini nga makitan, taguan o gipuson o giuli, you'll be amazed na, nagyan balaw di ang Ginoo anak. Nga naman, nowadays what we often hear is what? Oh, finder's keeper. Now, while it is so common nga ingon na to finder's keeper, I'd like us to see for ourselves how the Lord also in His will and purpose gave us a specific command in this area. Okay? How the Lord gave us a specific command in this area. And what is even more interesting is, di lang ka na, even sa mga uban pa nga mga butang sa ato ang kinabuhi, nga nagtuo ka nga di na bitaw hatagan o pagtagad, apan kining mga butang nga, ihatagan o pagtagad sa Ginoo. Now, before we go and deal with our text for consideration tonight, I just would like to bring to your attention some other instructions nga gihatag sa Ginoo dinhi ngadto sa iyang mga katawhan on matters that many would think doesn't matter. Ahos mo na? God gave a specific command to His people through Moses on matters that many people would think doesn't matter. Sama niini, No, di balaw diha ko ng Ginoo, may tungod ani? Yes. Now, even this practice that we now call as cross-dressing, this what we call cross-dressing nowadays, nga ang mga kalakihan mugamit og mga sapot sa mga kababayen-an og mga kababayen-an mugamit sa sapot sa mga kalalakihan. Look at verse 5. Look at verse 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are what? Abomination unto the Lord thy God. Now, I give you some time to reflect. This verse clearly teaches us the importance of maintaining a proper distinction between two genders. And as far as the Bible is concerned, and as far as God is concerned, there can only be, and there will only be two genders, male, female. Wala na yung mga alphabetical order, unya, plus. Unya, in both these two sexes, God is mindful nga diin, male would indeed dress up as male, and female would dress up as female. Yes, while we are now in the time that, yes, we see some of our sisters putting on jeans. Now, it is a matter of liberty. But even in that matter of liberty, you don't forget that God is mindful about this. That is why, as much as possible, we encourage sisters to come to church as dress up as female. And of course, males, you are supposed to dress up as males. Cross-dressing. You must be careful about cross-dressing. Now, of course, there's a particular term on this. It's called transvestism. Transvestism nga, ang mga lalaki ganahan mo suot o mga gamit sa mga babae, o ang mga babae ganahan mo gamit sa mga lalaki. Now, be very careful. Nowadays, we hear of people say, oh may uso, it's a fashion, nothing's wrong with it. Just when you think that nothing's wrong with it, God is mindful that you maintain your identity. If you are a female, be a female. If you are a male, be a male. Kinundong mo itong kanta bito, murag ni uso po itong kadiyot, tanan guwapo, ito. Ano man? Yes! Naikanta na kanyan ito nga, dilitanan guwapo, laki. Yan po, dilitanan guwapa, bayi. Nga naman, because there is now gender confusion. Ang mga lalaki nahingo ng mga babae, ang mga babae nahingo ng lalaki. One verse. Of course, I can bring you many verses, but this is not about this topic. Ang ako lang nga malantawan ninyo nga bitaw, no? Even ining mga butanga, God is mindful. As I have said, God gave specific commands on matters which people think doesn't matter. Inya mo ni mga butanga angay na itong ampingan kay sagad na ito mingon nga. Mo ba? Does it matter? It matters. Kaya ugwa pa, dili ni hatag ng kamanduan sa Ginoo. Okay, following? Now, padayon na ito ha. Para bakuha ba nato nga interesting kayo ni, if you have not bothered reading the book of Deuteronomy in this way, daghan kayong mga kamanduan diha. Now, in verse 6 and 8, verse 6 to 7, tanaw ha. If a bird's nest chance to be before thee, in the way, in any tree or on the ground, whether they be young ones or eggs, and the dam there ang inahan, sitting upon the young or upon the eggs, thou shalt not take the dam with the young, but thou shalt take in any wise, let the dam go, and that take the young to thee, and that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days. Now, why is it? Bisan sa mga butang na to, we are more familiar with manok. Nga na, kung sa'y tawag ka na, lum-lum. God has a command. Nga kung makasugat ka man yan, o kung sa ilang panahon sa una, it's so common, and for provision purposes, nga naman, na may mga sitwasyon sa una nga maglakaw ka diha sa kapunuan, walay tag-iyan, natural lang ba nga naisag, nailanggang, naimanok, for survival or for your food and provision of food, ingon diha, ayaw hilabti ang inahan, kuha alang ang itlog, and thy day may prolong. Now, of course, kanang day may prolong diha nga, masustintuhan ka sa imuhang kinabuhi, and of course, in a sense nga sa sunod na sad nga panahon nga mangitlog na ko itong inahan, naagya kong kay makaon. Nga naman, kay kung sa imong kagutom, matintal ka hasta ginayan ang imo hampat yun, wa na sunod mangitlog. That's the principle. Nga usay magkatawa tama. Sa ato ang panahon, pastor, sa pa may apply? Yes, later on, nanay application sa ato ang. Simple as it may be, the principles nga ma-apply. Hindi naman na masyo sa itlog karon pastor. No, this is not about just eggs. This is about economy. Pareha gud gyapon na siya nga principle nga ingon pa nato, you don't destroy the source of your water. In other words, enjoy the water. Don't you ever destroy the source. Kaya imo hatong daoton ug imong gibulwa na kay gani, it's always a reminder, no? Remember the hand that feeds you. Remember the source of the water you are drinking. Ayaw dauta. That's the principle behind this. Nga makasukat ka, ang itlog. But ayun, pila, karon sa tuwa, mas lamig mangitsong manong pastor guys sa tinilitong itlog. Now this is not about that. Ang principle behind ani. Now, it's full of lessons. Since that is not our text for consideration, just would like to bring to you in passing na kaning Deuteronomy is very practical. Tanang mga pagtulungan may tungod sa itong kinabuhi karon naa. Gani, I give you one more. Verse 8. Look at verse 8. When thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof, that thou shalt bring not blood upon thine house, if any man fall from thence. Now, of course, ang mga balay dito sa Israel are flat-roofed. Flat. Unya, kanina kamanduan is all about the design sa imong balay nga, o mag-design ka sa imong balay, ang imong rooftop, extension ni gyud gamay, mo na gitawag og battlement. In today's language, parapet. Parapet simply means nga murag kural ba nga igdungaw dili mahuog ang tao. You know what? Even modern buildings practice it. Kita na day kag building nga flat lang gyud diha unya way ganang at least murag kuan diha skillet. It always have flat roof, rooftop. No, ginayon ka na day mong dungawan diha. That is. Unsay katuyuan? Madili mahuog ditso ang na ay harang. Now, some of you may be thinking, apil pa na? Yes. Ano ba kayo? When thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof, that thou shalt not bring blood upon thine house, if any man fall from thence. Nga naman, imo man ang obligasyon, huwag na ay mahog diha. Now, kinsa ka nato ang kalantaw nga apil ba din is balaw? Yes. Now, this is not about commandment as heavy as the 10 commandments, but just the same. What I want us to see in here is the Lord in His wisdom is not just mindful about moral laws. He is also mindful of practical laws to preserve life. Ganingon kita nga that tapusan din ingon that thou bring not blood upon thine house. Kaya nga naman, you be guilty of the person's death. O diha na sa imuhang poder mahitabo. Mo ka na nga, the Lord in His wisdom, ipadayag na itong Moses, kinahanglan ang inyong balay na extension gamay. Amazing, isn't it? Gani mga kaigsunan, I don't have the time, we don't have the time. Apan kung imo di ganito na, particularly the remaining portion of the remaining chapter of Deuteronomy, you will find there interesting laws on chastity, on sanitation, on human relationship. Nga, madiskubrihan mo diya, just when you think that these things doesn't matter, think again. To God, it really matters. Now, going back, karon atong tanaw ang atong text, verse 1 to 4. Among the instructions that God gave His people were that pertaining to property or possession of others. Now, if you have been reading carefully together with us kaganihan, nakita nato diha that these laws and instruction is all about stray animals. Stray animals, kana mga saag na mga hayop o mga hayop na nakabuhi o nakagawa sa ilahang mga tangkal o nakabuhi sa ilahang mga hikot. In one word or in a simple term, stray animals. Mga saag o nakabuhi. And what are we told here? And what is the instruction here? As you can see, we are told that they are not to be ignored. Now, of course, atong again, before we go to the application later on, ato bang makita din nga, if you have had an experience na makaatong mga probinsya, which I do have a lot, my childhood days, bakasyon, dito gano'n sa hometown, sa akong papa o sa akong mama, na dito sa probinsya, makita gano'n mo diya, ilawang sa mga kanang punuan, sa kanang lubi o kanang diya sa mga mangga, tugway diha, mga kanding, mga kabaw, baka, nga gipakuan diha, baka nang gihitan diha para nga makakaon sa mga tanbot. Na ay mga panahon nga maibot ka ng ilahang ikot niya maglakaw. And so what? You can just imagine kung ang mga tao nga nakakita di magpakabanaan siya, nawa ditong kabaw o baka, whatever it may be. Apan kung ikaw nga nakakita, bisan og di ka kaila sa tagiya og di ka og wa ka kaila og kabaw kinsa tagiya og ikaw nakakita, it is your duty and obligation to hold on the animals according to verse 1. Kung kaila ka sa tagiya, iuli. That is verse 1. Verse 2, og di og wa ka kaila, data sa inyo ipaibaw sa katilingban nga naay baka nga na akong nakita na sa mua. Kung kinsay tagiya ani pakikita ko kay akong uli. Verse 3, likewise, around verse 3, likewise, in the same manner, kung ang iya habang uban ng mga kahayupan, his ass, his raiment, and whatever that belongs to your brother is lost, and you found it, what? To do likewise and to return. Unya, if it happens that it has come to your attention, it is not for you to hide yourself. Tanawang katapusan, first part of verse 1, thou shalt not hide thyself. Katapusan bahin sa verse 3, thou shalt not hide thyself. In other words, dili ka maka-excuse imong kugulingon, ambot ako kailakin sa tagiya anak o kailabot anak. You cannot do that. What else? Tanawa pa kayo, ha? At times, when the owner is not around, and if you don't know the owner, the wandering livestock, nga imo ang nakitaan, imong daton sa inyo ha. Kaya obviously, kung makakita ka baka o niya, naipisig nga, gaguyod niya, obviously, that should tell you nga nakabuhit ni siya. Kuha? You cannot just excuse yourself. Wa ko'y lapot, di ko kaila, o wa ko kaila sa tagiya, anak. Bahala na silang pangita. No. Naatay obligasyon, anak. Nga naman, kay nakakita man ta. And that's the principle that I'd like us to learn tonight. And where can we find that principle? First part of verse 1. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. Dili ka pwede nga mag-imuhang piyungan sa imong mga mata. Kay hasol man, purisyo man. No. Because this is an application of the second half of the law that says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Now, listen carefully mga kaibigan, because there are too many lessons that we can learn from this meditation tonight. Now, what else? Coming down to verse 3, this is not just about ox and sheep, even ass and clothing, and whatever property or possession that belongs to others. Bisan og kaila nimo og dili nimo kaila og naa kay nakitaan, your duty is to what? What is your duty? Tanawa balik ha? Verse 2. Then thou shalt bring it unto thine house, and it shall be with thee until thy brother seek after it, and thou shalt restore it to him. Verse 3. In like manner shalt thou do with his ass, and so shalt thou do with his raiment. Now, ingon pa nato, sa bukid pa ning kalok baron, sundang baron, sanina baron niya, nabiyaan diha. Tanawa, kung sa itong responsibilidad, with all lost things of thy brothers which he had lost, and thou hast found, shalt thou do likewise. Thou mayest not hide thyself. In other words, na kay makita niya, kay bawa kag isa tagiya o nagdili, you cannot just pass away nga, kapoy, samok ng pangita, asa pa na ito subayon. We have a moral obligation. What else? Verse 4. Thou shalt see thy brother's ass or ox fall down by the way. Ingon na to, uy, iya maning kuaning kabawa. Now, again, makarelate yung kuaning kay, somehow sabi na may uban anak mapukol, matuok siyang kagalingon, mabitik siyang kagalingon hikot, baboy, kadali, kadaganan anak ka lang sa probinsya, kanabang kay ingon pa na to, di ka-afford na na, pigiring ako nga, higtan lang ba, nausahin mabulibod. Now, of course, sagad sa nimita mo sa kanang mga manok nga pagtatari, mabitay kay, kanang mabitay sa tiba, kanang tipi, anak, mabitay. Unsa nga kahayupan, you cannot just watch, o kakita. No. Whether kailan mong tagiyaw sa dili, kakita ka, you cannot excuse yourself. Nakuha na to? Now, padayon na nato ni pagayo mong son. Tutuki pagayo ang 4. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or ox fall down by the way, and hide thyself. Kana mag-ingon nga digma. You cannot play a digma. In fact, what are you supposed to do? Thou shalt surely help him to lift them up again. Kung wa diyang tagiyag nakakita ka, ikaw mismo manawag og uban. Brad, ato ni tabang, ato ni kuanon, amot ang kinsa ka ning manok, ang kinsa ka ning baka, ang kinsa ka ning kabaw. That is our obligation. Ato nang katubigan, ato nang responsibilidad. And so, looking at this mga kaigsunan, yes, I want us to reflect upon this principle. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. In other words, ato pa ni lingwahe, di ka pwede nga makapiyong sa imong kagalingon, di ka pwede nga makapangulipas nga bisiko, di ka pwede nga makaalibay, di ka pwede maka-excuse sa imong kagalingon. Now, what is this principle about? Atong dungon ha? More often than not, in such a situation, we have the tendency to ignore. For whatever reason, busy, I am on the way, daghan ko giapas, wala ko katagad, daghan ko ginona. Yes, human as we are, whether it is valid or not, we have the tendency to ignore. And that is what it means here, that you hide yourself. You ignore. Wa ko kakita. As if we didn't see it. Or the other way, even worse is that some people could not be bothered. They take it to themselves to have it, to sell it, even to eat it. Uy! Uy! Nabitik! Namantay ka, matyanon na kininang tinga, unya umay tagiya. Daton ko ni Samo. Magpabukal ko tubig. That's even worse. you ignore the honor, you take it to yourself, and take it as yours, that's even worse. True. It is easier for us to ignore than to get involved. Nga kining ato ang tun-an karon should remind us nga naa ta ani nga responsibilidad sa usag-usa kanato. Dili lang sa usag-usa kanato nga kaila o kauban sa pagtuo, even sa ato ang mga silingan nga dili nato kauban sa pagtuo. And that is what we are supposed to do. We are not just to look out for our own welfare, but also for the welfare of others. We are not just to look out for our own good, but also for the good of others. Nga kung ato nilang taon mga kaigsunan, this is not just about that act of stealing. This is not even about taking care of the animals. While kung atong tanawon, yes, God is so concerned nga maprotektahan ang mga kahayupan, apan ang bottom line ini nga mga kamanduan is about our relationship with other people. This is not just about being honest na ato ning iuli. It's not about, while it is included, but the emphasis here is in keeping our testimony. So ba? We are not just to look out for our own welfare, not just to look out for our own good, but for the good and welfare of others. Yes, this is a law pertaining to property and possession of others and preventing these things to be lost because of our intentional oversight. Dili failure to oversee, but intentional oversight. Nga di imuhag yung gituyo, nga nagpalit ka, bisag nakakita ka. I'm sure nakasuway mo nga na kay nakita ko niya, wag yung ka magtagal ko niya na nagapamang pakita ka ba eh, ato ba eh? Look, ako dito ako nakita, ang imo dito. Awa na, i-barbecue na dito. Tama na ito, katong sunoy, katong buwan, ang imo. Pag kumain na ngiti. Isn't it very practical? This is very practical lesson. But this is not just about being practical in that sense. This is all about maintaining our testimony, maintaining our relationship, not just among us, God's people, but even to our neighbors who may not be sharing of one of the same faith. Nga sa atong paghimo niya na they will indeed be blessed. Mga niya itong mga silingan niya, kaya may ilang yung silingan kay mabano, may silingan na eh. Basta mula pa sa Duluna, kanang Duluna man dito sa Mindanao, kanang boundary ba? Mula pa sa Duluna, ako, ihaya. This is about mutual respect. And this is what I want us to learn here. Nga naman, siguro ang panguntahan ninyo, ma-apply pa ba niya sa ito, pastor, nga wag naman taro'y baka o ganang ko, mahugya, mabitik. Now, this is not about that. The principle behind. Now, what siguro tayo mga silingan, na yung mga baka, silang kilit, o kanding, whatever. I'm sure you have neighbors who have dogs. Cats. Kani, mas mahal pa ni sila usahay kaysa baka. O niya, malapas na siya, dulula, agoy. Sunod, makita dito na sa Facebook, for sale. Imbis of that lost and found, for sale. I hope you are now getting the point. Nga kinisa ng kamanduan is not just the Old Testament. Because we are not just about the letters of the law, but the principles behind the law. Kaya verse 3, it even speaks about raiment, right? Raiment. Raiment means clothing. Karang mga inayhay niya, nga wag mong takiklit, paghapak sa hangin, kanin nalabang sa imo ang tapon. Uy, parehas na kong sukod. Uy, branded. Careful. Now, I'm not bringing this to our real life situation. Kaya oftentimes, some people would have the tendency, karaang tugon man na brad, di man na ma-apply sa tuwa. No. Remember, God's word is timeless. While we are mindful that there are certain laws that was given and purpose only for the Old Testament, but principles are still carried on. Ceremonial laws, of course, it has to be done away with. But there are certain laws and whose principle applies. Nabisan todo, ang among silingan no may kay naa diha ox and ass naman, og sheep, Kuan man eh. Shatsu man eh. Goan man eh. Siberian. Oh. Di pwede man because ang atua is the principle. Okay? Dili tungod kay ang dimension diha bakar kanding og kuan. Maura ang ganing. Wa. No. That is wooden literalism. And we are not into such a kind of interpretation. Remember? Observation, interpretation, application. Now, how does this apply to us karon? And that is what matters most, okay? Because here is a law that pertains to property and keeping of the property and possession of our fellow man. And in essence, mga kaigsunan, this is all about our relationship with other people. Yes, it mentions about property and possession. Yes, it mentions about any wrongdoing. Now we must be responsible to be involved and don't ignore. But this is most of all about our relationship with people. As I titled this message that we are studying tonight, don't ignore, get involved. Don't ignore, get involved. And how are we to apply these principles sa atong kinabuhi karon? Yes, we can apply this sa atong sitwasyon karon in a sense that we must be always on the lookout and always on the alert sa paglantaw sa atoang mga silingan, sa atoang mga kaigsuonan. And what is it that we are to look out? This principle, mga kaigsuonan, in which we are told, thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. This is actually an instruction that is aimed for our involvement with our brother's life. Sa iyahang kahintang o sa iyahang sitwasyon, sa iyahang kinabuhi. Nga, kung naabot sa imuhang kasayuran nga naa siya sa kalisod, don't hide yourself from him. In other words, don't ignore him. Be involved. Samtong ginato niya, if your brother's adversity and difficulty has come to your knowledge, don't hide yourself from him. That's the principle here. Uy, kampuan man nga kabaw, kampuan man nga kanding, wa diha ang tagiya. Take the initiative. Kung kaila, iulit. Kung di kaila, paabot og nangay mo. Now, how are we to apply the application of this principle sa atua karon? I thought of sharing this with you for all our learning and application. Number one, don't just express your concern. Help. Pagkaagi ka diya baka nabitik o hapit nang natuog sa iyang kagalingon higot. You don't just say kaluoy sa baka. Di ba? So the point now in application, this is now in application, don't just express your concern, Kuha? In the New Testament, I bring you this, James chapter 2. Don't just express your concern, help. Don't just express your concern, do something. Now, James chapter 2, verse 14 and 6 to 16. If you are there, let's read this together. James chapter 2, verse 14 to 16. Reading. What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he had faith and had not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, Depart in peace, and be ye warm and filled, notwithstanding you give them not those things which are needful to the body, what does it profit? Diba you know it? No, but go in peace. You express your concern, but you don't do anything to address his concern. What does it profit? Obviously, that question can only have one answer. Nothing. It profits to nothing. It's a rhetorical question. And so, how are we to apply? Yes, here it is. You don't hide yourself. Now, hinumdumi ang context, ha? If it has come to your knowledge. Sa giingon pa diha, thou shall not see thy brother. In other words, nakita na nimo ang iyang kahayupan nga naa sa delikado, and then you hide yourself. Now, 1 John chapter 3. 1 John chapter 3, verse 17 to 18. Basahan na to. But whoso had this world's good, and seeth his brother have need, and shutteth up his bowel of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. So what's the principle? Don't just express your concern, do something. Oh, ba gutom kay ka? Agbantahalan. You cannot hide. That's the idea behind the word, thou shalt not hide thyself. You don't ignore. You don't run away. Kaya ka naabot sa imo ha. By all means, pray on how you can be of help. And don't just express your concern, do something. Matay igsoon, marag lisod na imong gantang, pero marag di akong gamay diri, ikaw ni bahalaan eh. I don't know how you would react, but at least, don't just express your concern, do something. Kita na ito ang kahayupan na huwag niya sa pangpang o niya huwag niya tag-iyak. Ikaw may nakakita. Do something. Kaluoy sa baka mamatay na ginaroon taon. Do something. Bay, ato na. Amot, di ko kailas tag-iyan eh. Pero kayo mo nakapigil naman gining bakahan, inang gining maglangan, ato ni maswaton. Do something. You know, that's the problem with many of us. I'm sure you're familiar with the story of the Good Samaritan. The priest passed on, the Levite passed on. You know, priests, Levites, who are these people? They're supposed to be religious, so-called godly people. But in practice, zero. As I often would say, you don't just stand there, do something. Although, there are also times, especially kung kita po na as mga pagsuway, don't do something, just stand there. Be still and know that I am God. But in this case, you don't just stand there, do something. In other words, don't just express your concern. What? Do something. Don't just express your concern, extend your help. Lend a helping hand. That's the first principle in application for this. Now, ikalawa, don't deprive them of your help. Give. Kaganihan, don't just express your concern, do something. To expound it even further, don't deprive them of your help, give. Balik na sa tas asno, balik na sa tas kabaw, baka. Naglain mo akong pamati, marag di na akong makaya, nilahos na lang ko, namatay, gidi ay. Don't ignore, get involved. Call for help. Ask for some assistance. Bay, wag ko na ko kailas tag-iya. Pinangalabyan ako nga mauna na yung sitwasyon. Kung sa kaya itong kahimuan na ni, nga ito na yung makuan. And this is what I want us to learn. Nga naman, this principle applies. Ang pagtulunan, ang kamanduan gani, ang gigamit des kamanduan kahayupan. How much more kung tao atong makiat diha? Kuha na to? How much more ang tao mismo naa sa kalisod? How much more kung tao na ang naa sa katalakman? Di pwede ngayon mo lang labyan. And that's the application of this law. So, don't deprive them of your help. Give. Turn to Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3. Verse 27 to 28. Natanayan ka na. I hope ang ato ang mga kaigsunan diya silang mga pinanianan kasubay. No? Let's turn to Proverbs chapter 3 and verses 27 and 28. Again, I remind you, let's read these verses together loud. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Say not unto thy neighbor, Go and come again, and tomorrow I will give, when thou hast it by thee. Ayun ikaw eh. Don't excuse yourself. Don't ignore. Get involved. Gani, kung ato pabitonin, palakdan ang application ba? Kay kahayupan mangguni. Pero kung ato ning mahimo sa kahayupan, labaw ang ato ning buhaton sa katawhan. Kuha na na. Matagkaroon og unya, makasugat kita mga kaigsunan o mga tao gani nga dili nato kauban sa pagtuo nga di nasayod tanganay mga balatian. Kung naa kay mahatag gamay nga ayuda, of course di man siguro kung na sila mag-expect nga ato sila sulbaro na ilang dalang problema, pero kung naa kay mahatag o kung siya itong mahatag, by all means, give. Kay mas maayo pang muhatag ka samtang buhi pang imong gihatagan, kay ma-appreciate nila ang imong gihatag, pero sagad atong madungog karon ihaya na adto kay no maglumbak kang panakanay og hatag suwat din dito Stanley. Okay na tanan. Ang kinamahalan pala yung buwang ibutang. For what? Nakuha na ito mga isun? Don't hide! Don't just express your concern. Do something. Help. Don't deprive them of your help. Give. Now, although diha ang book of Proverbs ningon, when it is in the power of thy hand to do it. Now, pwede ba natong ma-excuse itong kagalingon nga naam sa need, pastor, nga napupos kawan-on? Now, of course, sa imong kagalingon, kung naagi kay kasing-kasing, imong willing ka muhatag niya na, Ako nagtuo nga ang Ginoo ra gud mo paigo diha nimo. Remember the woman of Sarepta nga gingadto ni propeta Elijah nga diin nangayo si propeta Elijah nga unsay makaon ni diya kay gigutom ko. Ningon ang mga babae nga kinira gid taon para sa ako og sumong anak ako ni kanon aron ikaw man mamatay mi. Nga naman because there is not enough. Apan sa diha nga giingnan siyang propeta Elijah na mukaon ko ang Ginoo mo paigo nimo. Yan diya. And so what happens? First Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17. Don't deprive them of your help, give. First Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17. Natria. First Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17. Let's read together up until verse 18. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy, that they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate. Do good. And how to do good? Ingon dia, willing to distribute, no? And rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate. The word communicate there in today's English is share. Willing to communicate. Imuhang gipaambit. Willing to convey. You know, mga kaibigan, sometimes kita po, we have that tendency to preserve ourselves. Kunya magtukutan nga, mas naatay ikinhanglan kay sa uban. Pero sometimes ma-miss ka, nga samtang nagatuo ka nga, murag ikaw nang ginay ikinhanglan sa tanan. Pero makadungog ka, nga napaday mas grabe kinahanglan nimo niya, na kay ma-share nga ito nila, gaan kayo mong kasing-kasing anak. It's not just about you're able to do good, pero himaya nimo ang Ginoo. Because there are people who can give and can only give in their excesses. But God is most pleased and glorified if you can even give in the midst of your needs. Nga naman, katong mga ordenahan, sinsira na nila ilang mahatag. Pero sa imo, sa atong kawalo, nung yan nagyapon tayo nihatag, remember the widow with her two mites? The other people give out of their abundance. The widow give her all in the midst of her wants. Hebrews 13 verse 16. Don't deprive them of your help, give. Hebrews 13 verse 16 to encourage us. Now, if you are there, let's read together Hebrews 13 verse 16. Reading, but to do good and to communicate, forget not. For with such sacrifices, God is well pleased. Now, how many of us have realized this? Nga kanadi nga itong pagtabang o itong paghatag nga ito sa uban, makahimaya na sa Ginoo. Tanaw ha? Do good and to communicate. Communicate again, to share, to give. Forget not, for with such what? Sacrifices, God is well pleased. So, before ka mag-una-una nga, galisod bansad ko, pas lang sa koron, ayaw. Pag ingon mong pas, ikaw na po yung nagpas sa imong kagalingon sa panalangin nga ihatag sa Ginoo diha. Nimo. Kuha? This is to encourage you. Of course, we all grow in different stages and levels at ang pagtuo. But setting all that aside, this is one truth that I'd like us to learn. Wherever you may be in your Christian walk, it's good that we learn this principle. That in such sacrifice, the Lord is well. I'm sure you want to please God. So, dili pa ka maghuna-una nga pas lang sa kakaroon, di lang sa ko, kay murag kapigil ko. Think about it this way. Sa kada pas nimo, murag imo ra kung gibalibaran ang panalangin nga ihatag kunta sa Ginoo diha nimo. Kay sa imong paghatag ana, ang pulong sa Ginoo gayon ato nang gibasa. For in such sacrifice, God is well. So sa pagdumili nimo sa paghimo sa angay unta nimo pagabuhaton ngadto sa uban, ikaw ra ko'y naghikaw sa imong kagalingon nga unta imo mahimaya ang Ginoo. Kuha na daw. I'm sure kung nasayod ta ani long ago, lugar ko sa tanadasik na makultivate ang pagkamanghinatapon. Don't deprive them of your help. Give. Don't just express your concern. Help. Now, we move on. As we are told here that thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or sheep go astray and die, hide thyself from them. Now, kung imong tutukan pag-ayo, ibalik-balik na siya sa Ginoo. In verse 1, ato nang makita. In verse 2, nakagyan mo na. Tanawa verse 2 ha. Back to Deuteronomy 22. And if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, or if thou know him not, then thou shalt bring it unto thine own house, and it shall be with thee until thy brother seek after it, and thou shalt restore to him again. Now, nowadays, ang atong mahibawan, finders keeper. No, of course, huwag na as kadalanan na mahog yung piso, 10 pesos, di na po kamingon nga. Diba? Kisay tagihan eh. Now, of course, igmingon sa kakisay tagihan eh, ganda sa mingon nga ako na, di kita iya. Nakuha na to? And this principle applies, pero sa mga sitwasyon na ingon-ingin, wow. Klaro kaya ingon, nga kayo makita diya, bilin ko na nga butang, mahal na nga butang, nagi tag-iya anak, nabalaka taong ang tag-iya nga nawan-an anak. Ano sa principle? Take it with you, keep it until somebody would claim. I share this one incident with you. It happened sa ako ang mama. One time, nagpa-check up, man siguro ta siya ron na to, pa-check up, na ang iyang cellphone, murag na bilin niya sa taxi. Kunya, of course, knowing sa kanang gamit sa akong mama, dili po ingon nga kanang ordinaryo, some kind of unit po nga medyo high-end. Ang nakanindot lang sa tag-iya, sa nakakita kay nakasunod sa iyang taxi. Nakasunod og sakay ba? Nakasunod og sakay, iyahang kuha, gidarya. Nga naman, posible man ito nga iyahang isulti unta sa busing, naay silpo na bilin. Kunya, nagtuog ka nga ang driver mo, pagabana, pag-share, trace o kinsay tag-iya. Salamat sa Ginoo na apay driver nga nagkatuon sa Deuteronomy 22:22. Di ba no? Pero we are not putting drivers in a negative light, in a bad light, pero sa karon sa kadaghanan nga itong madungog, uy, saan na ito pagsubayan eh? Di ba? Pero sa iyahang bahay, iyahang gidala. Unya, sa pagdala niya, murag, she was trying to establish contact with my mom. Pinagi kang Carol, murag nakuha ka niyang number no? Kaya murag sa ilaha, sa iya sigurong inbox ba? Nga kanunay makommunicate sa kumama si Kanin karon kay wa na may makontak ni, di man niya makontak ang mama kay iyan, cellphone to niya. So, she's trying to contact us. Nga, ikunsa na, gipangutanas message nga, ikunsa na ako, ikunsa niya si kanang tagiyanin ko, ana. So, may mama na, ako ng mother-in-law, hantod nga, nasubay na mo. Ingon siya nga, na ako diri sa kuwan ga puyo. Kung makanganhi mo, kuhaan ni iyahan, unique. Isn't it the principle nga itong nabasa? Take it with you, keep it to yourself, until the honor. Wa ko idea o Kristohanon to siya dili. But yes, I'm reminded of her good deeds. Nga naman, siya nga nakakita. Usually the thing of the way of the word, finder's keeper, sulbad sa kuang panginahanglan noon. O niya, o pwede po, o sa iyang bahin, honest po siya, nga dito iya, pwede po ito niya nga i-refer sa driver. Karon ang pamunta na kung ang driver, Deuteronomy 22 driver ba po? Diba, many things can happen. Pero, what is amazing, nga ako yung karon, nahinunduman ako karon sa mga pamalandong tayo, yes, it did happen. Nga, muna, she took effort to contact us. Ni mo tumamong gipahibaw si mama pinagi sa number sa akong papa. Nga imong cellphone ma, bibiyaan ni mo taxi niya, napunit sa kuhan. Ayak pa dahil nakabantay ako. Di ay. Now, wak na gani pag-ila ang maong babae. Wak gid mangayo kung sa pero ako na lang po initiate ba. Gani, marang dili, gani mo dawat karon pero meron ko nga, ina lang yun nga. In appreciation ni siya, dili ni siya pagbuhan. Kaya I know, nga katong amount nga among gihatag is way below sa presyo atong gamit sa kong mama. Sa iyahang cellphone. Nga, kanang all-in-one po niyang gamit ba, naatanan niyang data, account, niya, mga number sa iyahang credit card, or whatever, tanan. So, it's more than, way beyond more than what we gave. But the thing is, the principle ba na iyang nakitaan, iyang gidala, and she took effort to what? Locate kung kinsa ang tag-iya. Now, pila ka katao ang ingon ana pagkaron sa atong panahon. Gani, it is not surprising even God's people may fall into temptation. Ay, mo na ginitubag sa kong pagkampo kay to context na ganyan kong cellphone. Nabaguhan. Na high-tech. Remember, worse, if they found something that is lost, they will take it for themselves and have them as themselves and consume it for themselves. No, we cannot ignore. Now, ingon pa diha dayon verse 3. Look down on verse 3. In like manner shalt thou do with his ass, and so shalt thou do with his raiment, and with all lost things of thy brothers, which he had lost. And thou hast found, thou shalt do likewise. Thou mayest not hide thyself. You know what it means? You don't ignore it. Ayaw itago imong kagalingon o ayaw itago ang butang na imong nakitaan. So what's the principle? Don't ignore, get involved. And that's the title of today's message. Don't ignore, get. I'm sure we're familiar with Galatians 6, verse 9 and 10. Panagingon, let us not be weary in well-doing. For in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Verse 10, as we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men. Pero, tanaw katapusan, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Now, at the outset of this message, I am sure you're having a hard time kung saan natin ipag-apply, Pastor, nga karon wa nang baka o mga asno nga galaroy-laroy. I hope you are able to see it clearly now. We may never find ourselves looking after ox and sheep and returning to their rightful owners. But you know what? We will always find people in our midst who are having difficulty and even in the midst of adversity sa ilahang kinabuhi. Remember the instruction. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. In application, don't ignore. Get involved.